Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe can and should be overturned by the Supreme Court?
That's a case that's litigated. It could, its contours could come up again. In fact, do come up. They came up last term before the court. But I can't express views on cases or pre-commit to approaching a case any particular way.
That was just one of many times that Amy Coney Barrett refused to say how she would handle Roe if it came to the Supreme Court docket. Now, the concerns about Barrett certainly don't stop with a woman's right to choose, health care, another issue. We talked about it with Secretary Sebelius earlier this hour. If the High Court repeals the Affordable Care Act, women would lose access to free contraceptives that Obamacare provides. Plus, many advocates, they're very concerned that the rightward tilt of the court could also make it much tougher for women to fight things like gender discrimination and harassment in the workplace. I want to bring in my next guest, Stephanie Schriock. She's president of Emily's List. And first of all, Stephanie, thank you for the time today. And what we're trying to do this week throughout these hearings is give separate chapters of the American population a preview to what possibly could change, and not on the margins, but in the main. And I wanted to talk about women's reproductive rights with you. We all talk about Roe, but it's not limited to just abortion, that the court could really substantively change certain givens right now in terms of the health care protections that women have. Give an idea what other things are also potentially at risk.
Well, I mean, one of the first cases that the court's going to be looking at is the Affordable Care Act, which I know you said you had Secretary Sebelius on earlier. And that, of course, provides contraception coverage for women across this country that women are depending on. So right off the bat, you've got that at stake. And we're very concerned about losing the Affordable Care Act. And then you've just, you've looked at economic opportunities for women and equal pay and inequality issues that could be coming as well. But the problem here is that President Trump promised that he was going to nominate anti-choice justices. And it is so clear that Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell are pushing this justice nominee through because they've got an agenda. And we know that part of that agenda is an anti-choice agenda. And once women across this country and women and families across this country no longer have the ability to make their own choices about their reproductive freedom, then we are in deep trouble in lots and lots of ways. And this is very outside of the mainstream. I mean, the vast majority, well over 7 out of 10 Americans believe Roe needs to stand. And because once it goes back to the states. And then all of a sudden, it all depends on which zip code you live in, on what kind of rights you have. And that is not the kind of country any of us want to be living in.
And again, and we don't have to imagine this, we can go back to pre-Roe. It also matters how big your bank account is because, suffice to say, any of the Republican senators, if a female loved one in their family needed to have an abortion, I'm sure they could afford to put them on a plane to go to some place to go. But if you're living in a red state and you've got hundreds of miles to go before you can go to a clinic in another state, it's not really an equal choice.
Well, we almost have this challenge now. I mean, we are losing ground. Clinics have been shut down under a whole series of really, challenging and often unfair regulations. And you've got that situation where you've got one clinic in a state like Missouri or Mississippi, and fewer in Texas, where women have to drive or can't get there. And you're exactly right. Those with resources will always get the health care they need. They will always get access to abortion. They will get access to whatever they need. They will jump on an airplane. They will fly somewhere else. That is what happened before Roe. And for the vast majority of Americans, particularly now that we are even dealing with high unemployment rates, illness, everything else going on, we even have more women and people who are financially struggling. What are they going to do?
Do you have an idea, Stephanie, as to how many states, if Roe went away, women would lose the choice?
I don't know the exact number, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a massive battle. And it's one of the reasons that Emily's List, which is committed to electing pro-choice Democratic women to office, has been so focused at the legislatures, because we have been, one, knowing that we were going to get into redistricting, wanted to have as many Democratic women in place. But the other piece was for the policies that were already coming up. And in these conservative Republican legislatures, in places like South Dakota or Iowa or Mississippi and Alabama, you've seen these very, very stringent laws come out against access to abortion. These 6-week bans, they just get smaller and smaller. They've been ruled unconstitutional, but those states are going to go, which is why we're going to have to fight to win these legislatures. And you're going to see a lot more activity at the legislative level, which we've already started at Emily's List.
And I want to talk about the coming election with you. In fact, I saw a number here. Compared to just 4 years ago, how many women are running for office right now? Isn't it like 30-fold? It's amazing how many women have decided, I'm not going to wait for these guys to figure this out. I'm going to decide myself.
I know it's our 35th anniversary of Emily's List, and I always say for the first 30 years, we spent a lot of time begging women to run, and then all of a sudden they said, nope, it is time to do it. And we are here to help. We've had over 60,000 women reach out to Emily's List since the 2016 election, looking for help to consider running for office, who want to run. They're not all running yet. Some of them have run and won. Some are running right now. A lot of folks saw 2018 as, they always like to term things as the year of the woman or the second year of the woman. I'm telling you, Rich, we are talking about a sea change. We have more women on the ballot this November, or I should say right now, because people are voting, than we did in 2018. And that is only going to grow.
If there's two constituencies that seem to certainly explain the growing gap, at least if you believe the polls, between Trump and Biden, it is seniors. We'll talk a little bit about them later in the program, and women. We've got a poll up here. My God, the seismic shift from 4 years ago to now. Do you attribute that more to policies, or is it behavior of Trump that's turned so many women off?
Initially, I would say it was Trump and his behavior. But as time has gone on, and you could already see there was a big gender gap even for Hillary Clinton when you showed those numbers. Women have been trending toward Democratic candidates for a couple decades now and growing rapidly, because the policies of the Republican Party have really alienated women. And it particularly starts with this, this choice issue about whether or not you're going to be able to choose to have a child or not have a child, if you're going to handle your reproductive freedom or not, if the government's going to decide that for you. But then you get into childcare and healthcare issues that are really driving this. The fact that the Republican Party continues to push to overturn the Affordable Care Act has really maddened women across the country. And that's why you're seeing numbers like this.
Well, this thing finally, hopefully, will come to an end in 18 days here or so. Stephanie, I appreciate a few. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, up next, the president, he's struggling in the polls with women, as we just saw, but he's also losing huge support when it comes to seniors. And believe me, that's bad news as he fights to win Florida, which is considered a pivotal state if he's going to keep his job for 4 more years. When we come back after the break, a special report from the largest retirement community in the nation and what people at the Villages have to say about Trump and Biden.